All right, so at this point, we would like to have you have the opportunity to hear from some of our, again, teachers who teach these classes, as well as students, as well as some of the representatives from our higher institution of learning. And so first, I'd like to have each person on the panel introduce themselves. And so we'll start over here to my right.
Hi, my name is Lydia Eisman, and I'm a part of the Law and Government Academy, and I'm a senior.
Hi, my name is Andrew Bowman. I'm part of the PLTW engineering program, and I'm also a senior.
Hello, I'm Joey Sun. I'm a senior, and I'm part of the Biomed Project Lead the Way program.
Hi, I'm Natalie Costin. I'm a sophomore, and I'm currently enrolled in the AP World History class.
Hi, I'm Greg Gastineau. I teach ACP Government through IEO.
My name is Jamie Follis. I teach AP World History and AP European History here at HSE.
Good evening, I'm Angela Lupton. I'm the Assistant Dean in the College of Education at Butler University.
Good evening, my name is Patrick Cannon. I'm the Associate Director of the Advanced College Project, ACP, at Indiana University, Bloomington.
Good evening, I'm Ted Ward. I am the Director of Academic Initiatives and Student Strategies for Ball State University's Division of Online and Strategic Learning.
Hi, my name is Robert King. I work with Ivy Tech Community College. I'm one of the dual credit coordinators.
My name is Eric Rosenbaum, and I will be speaking about the Academy of Finance here at HSE.
Okay, so we'll start with you, Patrick. So as the Associate Director of the ACP program at IU Bloomington, what would you like the audience to know about your program? Why should students take an ACP course? What are the benefits?
Well, the acronym ACP stands for Advanced College Project. So when you'll hear the term ACP used interchangeably with dual credit, and that's what IU's program is. Our program was founded in 1982. We're in our 35th year, so we have a long-established record of quality. We currently serve 16,000 students in the state of Indiana and in about 4 surrounding states. Primarily, about 95% of our students are in Indiana. We have, since the program began, in 1982, have had over 130,000 high school students graduate with IU credit as high school students. Again, why I believe your student, son or daughter, should be interested in taking an IU ACP class is that it is a college class. They are actually generating an IU transcript, which if they attend IU is there, or any IU satellite campus is their transcript that they're beginning college with as a freshman in college, but also is a transferable transcript to other universities, not only in Indiana, but in other states. Our teachers, who are teachers here at Hamilton, are actually applied to become IU instructors. So they are trained in Bloomington to teach the course. They are actually delivering the curriculum of the course. So these are rigorous courses, which our data it proves out year after year. And it's a great, as Doug did mention, it's a great cost savings to families. At $25 a credit hour, the 3 credit hour course is $75, where on campus it's well over $300 for a 3 credit hour course, close to $400. So it's a tremendous savings to families to be able to have college credit classes taken in a high school setting. The rigor of the course, we think, better prepares, as Doug mentioned, better prepares students. We have students coming into Indiana that don't need remediation, that are better prepared as college students, and that's a really important thing for us. So again, we're proud of our track record. We are a nationally accredited program with NACEP, which requires us to follow certain national standards that are set by this national organization, and feel that further gives us a mark of seal of approval that the courses that are being delivered here at Hamilton are in fact IU courses that are worthy of students receiving credit.
So Patrick, could you share a little bit more about how a class held here at Hamilton Southeastern is the equivalent to taking a course down in Bloomington?
Well, as I mentioned, these are IU courses that are actually generating IU credit. And so in order for a teacher here at Hamilton to be teaching one of our courses, they have to make an application to Indiana University to be an instructor of that course. That requires them to make out an application, which is pretty extensive. They have to submit proposed coursework. In addition, that if after submitting their application and their own transcripts and their undergraduate and graduate transcripts as teachers, they are approved to teach the course, they then are required to come down to Bloomington for training by our departments. So if it is a history class that they're taking or government class they're taking, our political science department is training the government political science teacher here on a multi-day format set up on campus. In addition, we provide a faculty liaison directly to the high school teacher who can serve as a go-between to the university, assist them with any questions. Again, teachers are they are given access to all IU resources just as an IU on-campus instructor is. Additionally, we have a syllabus, which is of course outlined, where we have for all of our courses, we have certain expected outcomes that we want students to be able to know or be able to achieve as a result of taking those courses. Those expected learner outcomes are the same for students taking the courses in Bloomington as they are for the students taking the course here at Hamilton. And so that is part of what the student gets at the beginning of taking an ACB course is a syllabus which includes the fact that it is an IU course and there is required IU language in there. They are generating a college grade, and therefore they are generating a college transcript. But the rigor and the experience, I think, that the students get. I speak having worn a lot of hats, but I probably would say my most important hat that I've worn in the dual credit world is as a parent myself. I have a son who recently graduated from an out-of-state private university, and he had graduated with 21 credits, both from IU and from Ivy Tech. All of his credits transferred to that private university. I have a daughter who is currently a junior at an out-of-state private university. She took 28 credits, and all of those credits transferred. And the reasons why people take or families might benefit from college credit in high school varies from maybe graduating early, certainly saving money, but in my children's case, it allowed my daughter to double major a little bit more easily. It allowed my son, who was probably not as academically motivated as my daughter, to take one class less a semester and do better in those classes and still graduate on time.
Thank you. So Ted, what would you like the audience to know about Ball State's dual credit program?
Sure. I think there'd be definitely some comparisons with my colleague at IU, so not to repeat many of the things there. I'll focus on really just a couple of areas. Something that Patrick did touch on is our program is nationally accredited with the NACEP National Association, and that adds a level of rigor some standards, some qualifications, some administrative hoops that we jump through because we believe it's the best practices for dual credit programming that we can bring here to Hamilton Southeastern High School and our other partnership schools. So we uphold those standards and monitor them, and they carry forth in the courses with our faculty. And additional to that, we have full-time dedicated dual credit staff that is what they do entirely. That is the entire scope of their role. So they are focused, and we certainly appreciate the commitment that Hamilton Southeastern has made in partnership with us, and we reciprocate that as well.
From an admissions standpoint, would you say that an applicant improves their chances of being admitted to Ball State if they have taken or done well in a dual credit class?
Well, the admission decision is a bit, I think, of a mystery for a lot of people. I'll say that, and I certainly don't make those decisions myself. Getting some smiles from my colleagues here a little bit, but I do know one thing very clearly is our admissions personnel and our administrators there have certainly been more interested in learning about our students and getting involved and creating events and opportunities for dual credit students to experience Ball State maybe in a different way, that connection than they ever have before. So I would say that there definitely is growing interest and value to dual credit at our institution.
Thank you. So we'll shift gears to Angela. And so as the Assistant Dean of the College of Education, what would you like the audience to know about our unique new partnership with Butler?
So I'm an educator by trade, so there's going to be some audience participation to this. I should just let you know that up front. So to make sure you're awake, how many of you have ever been a student? Okay, they're all awake still. This is good. How many of you, whether you are currently a student or whether you once were a student, can very readily call to mind that amazing one teacher that you had at some time in your school experience? Yeah, and you know what came along with those hand raised? Smiles, right? You have that fond memory of who that person was. You could probably still tell stories about what that experience was like. And part of the reason why the only dual credit course that we currently offer through Butler is that recognition that everything else that comes along is built on the foundation of a great educational experience. And as parents who are sitting with your students tonight, you know that sending your students off to a great high school is going to begin to give them that great foundation. But if we don't do a better job in the profession, and I include myself in that, of starting to kind of cherry pick from the top, the best and the brightest, then your students don't get a chance to be exposed at the foundational level to all those other great things that are going to come after it. And frankly, even as educational colleagues, we need to start looking in the eyes of some of our students and saying, you're the kind of person that's the combination of being able to teach as well as to be intellectually rigorous that I want being in my classroom next door to me as a colleague in 5 years, in 7 years, in 8 years. And those are the kinds of moments where it may not make a difference to your child that's sitting next to you right now, but it's going to make a difference to their kids. It's going to make a difference to nieces and nephews, to grandchildren, to other kids that you care about in the future. So part of the reason why we put this into place is to really begin to shine a light on the profession, but also to help students to realize that educators are everywhere. Students, how many of you have ever been to a really great summer camp? How many of you have ever had a really great coach? How many of you have ever had a really great music teacher? Okay. How many of you have ever been to a museum? Okay. All of those places have educators. One of my favorite stories is about my student who went in thinking she was going to be an elementary school teacher, and she's now the senior science educator at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. How cool is that? So it's helping students to see that sometimes the perception of what we think something is can be much broader, which means that the skill set that you're developing can be applied in a lot of different areas.
In terms of employment trends, since you've encouraged everyone to get into education, in terms of employment trends, what are you seeing in education?
We're very pleased to see not only our numbers increasing in our college, but for over 15 years, we've placed 100% of our educators in every single licensure area that we license in active teaching positions, again, whether that be in traditional classroom settings, museum settings, those kinds of things. And what we're finding is that anybody ever see anything in the news about education? Occasionally? Yeah. Anybody ever see anything positive? Okay. So what we're seeing is that educators are also learning that advocacy and policy piece, which I don't think we've traditionally trained in before, so that we begin to view schools and communities not as they currently are, but as the way that they could be.
Thank you. Robert, as the Assistant Director of K-12 Initiatives at Ivy Tech, could you help to dispel the notion that may exist out there that Ivy Tech is just a trade school, not an institution of higher learning with high standards and qualified faculty? In short, could you introduce today's Ivy Tech to the audience?
Yes, most definitely, and thank you, Mr. Harder. Ivy Tech did begin as a trade school in March of 1963 in Indianapolis. Things have changed significantly, and if I can sum up Ivy Tech in 2 words, it would be the words professional development. It's a statewide institution, Ivy Tech Community College, the keyword there, community. And the professional development of the state as a whole is the aim, the primary aim of Ivy Tech. And that goes in a lot of different ways and a lot of different goals, including, and especially recently, I would say the last 10 years, partnering very closely with our 4-year institution colleagues, co-workers, whatever you want to call them, to help streamline our curriculum. Of course, there's plenty of industrial and, if you want to call them, traditional trade outlets as well. It's for everybody. Statewide institution for professional development. And as far as the quality of instruction, I would argue our quality of instruction, not argue, I mean, the reality is the quality of our instruction does match that of our 4-year partners. Within the dual credit framework, our instructors need to be carefully credentialed by the department chair of a given program, and their curriculum that they want to teach, the proposed curriculum, that also goes through academic scrutiny to make sure that it's going to stand to the academic rigor of what should be expected in a college class. I'll give you just one example of today's Ivy Tech as opposed to the trade or vocational school stereotype. I used to work in the testing center, and part of what we would do every spring and fall semester is we would give a test called the CAP test. It is a test administered by the same family of tests as ACT, but it was kind of a general standardized test over some random topics that were changed every 3 years. So let's say from like 2015 to 2018, you might be taking a math or science test. And I remember giving this test in a classroom full of students, graduating students from all ages, about 18 to 40, I would say. And I remember talking to one of the students after I administered this test, and she had been accepted into the computer science program at Harvard University, as in Ivy League Harvard. And I mean, we're talking about going from Ivy Tech to Harvard. Now, granted, that's not I'm not going to say that that's, the common trend, but it's possible. There's plenty of possibilities, plenty of opportunities. I would say that's the new Ivy Tech, if you want to call it that.
Can you elaborate on how the Ivy Tech credits, if a student chooses not to stay at Ivy Tech or enter Ivy Tech, how do those credits transfer to an IU or to a Ball State or a Butler?
To start this, I would the guiding principle here, whenever it comes to transfer credits, is it's always going to depend upon the accepting institution, how they're going to accept any outside credits. So I would always encourage you to have a point of contact. If you know where you'd like to go to school, if you have a four-year school in mind, or even as high school students, to best plan and maximize your schedule, to make the best use of just unbelievable dual credit opportunities that you have right at your fingertips. If you already have a very clear goal in mind, I would talk to that other school, have a point of contact where you want to go. As far as how our credits transfer, some of you might be familiar with what's called the Core Transfer Library. It's a catalog of courses, college courses, that are guaranteed to transfer to any public institution in the state of Indiana. Of the Ivy Tech credits that we offer here, a few examples would be our English 111, which corresponds to some of the sections of the senior English class. Another would be the college level math, or the college algebra class, and also our the introduction to microcomputers, which is built into some sections of the digital applications and responsibility computer class. There are a lot of freshmen that take that class as well. These are all classes that are guaranteed to transfer to any public institution, public post-secondary in the state of Indiana. And as far as other credits that you can gain, I would encourage you to take advantage of as much as you can. You never know what opportunities are going to open up for you. You never know what skill set you're going to fall back on, or what you might wind up doing or wanting to do. My experience with some of the people I've worked with, one of my schools, as far as, they have about 8 different agreements, dual credit agreements with us. And a lot of their students, they're a private school. They usually will tend to go to one of 3 more expensive private out-of-state schools. One of them will take our literature class that they offer in their building, but they want them to take their version of the composition class. And then another one, it's just flipped. They'll take the composition, but not necessarily the literature. The other one will take all the Spanish credits. The other ones, they kind of pick and choose. And then one of them, they'll take more or less everything. So I think, realistically, you can expect, even if this class is not on a core transfer library, I'm not just talking about Ivy Tech, but I'm talking about dual credit in general. Take advantage of it. It might transfer as an elective credit, but it still transfers credit. And the most important thing, and I think kind of the overarching goal of what we're looking at, is just opportunity, taking advantage of what's available to you.
Thanks, Robert. Well, we're going to transition to hear from some of our teachers. So, Mr. Follis, who's sitting next to me, as an AP teacher, could you share with the audience how you structure and teach your class differently than a regular class? What's different about an AP class? What should students expect?
For years, I taught world history, and then in 2002, we started offering AP World History. I've been teaching that class ever since. It's just structured a little bit differently in the depth of the material that we go into, the rigor of the course, the obligations that the students have, and kind of they need to be a little motivated because they've got a lot of freedom in the course. The class is structured in a way that helps them prepare for college. We kind of, as well as teaching them world history, we also are teaching study skills, reading retention, time management, stress management, even how diet affects your performance in the class. So we're really trying to make them holistically a good student in every class And we have tons of kids that say that this class made them better than every other class they took in high school and in college. It's structured differently and also the workload that they have. In world history, they kind of phased out the textbook and use a variety of supplemental materials. We still have a textbook that the kids will read, which is still, I believe, in colleges they still read textbooks. So that's a helpful skill, just to read, remember, retain, how to take notes, how your brain works. But they have to be a little more motivated. They have some freedom in the course, but we give them a calendar. So they know every night what they can do. So we kind of help them learn how to manage their time and break it up. The way the class was designed is, I know that everybody in AP World History, it's their first AP class. And it's designed to be that, to help them, to give them that structure and the freedom and the support to gradually go from 8th and 9th graders to a college level of success and a college level of rigor.
Well, as you just mentioned, a lot of the students who take your course, it's their first AP course. So we have students out here in the audience who may be considering taking their first AP course. What advice would you give them?
I would say, you talk to people, maybe you have older siblings or neighbors or friends who've taken the course, they can give you good advice. Some kids like to take it as a freshman, just to get going on their AP credit. Some kids like to wait till their sophomore year and take it as an option. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, it's whatever's best for you. You need to come to the course with the realization that it is a college level course. It's not hard because I want it to be hard. It's hard because there's a test in May over everything that ever happened anywhere on the planet Earth. And our job is preparing for that test, even though we don't get to see it. Nationally, the average is about 50% of the kids that take it get a 1 or a 2. And you saw that thing that's not passing. We have like 90% of our kids get a 3 or higher. So our kids do very well, but there's a level of we have a meeting in the spring with the parents to let the kids and the parents know how hard this course is. And I always tell them, it's not just, you've been hearing for your whole life, it's hard, but it's been pretty easy for you because you're probably pretty bright if you're thinking about taking AP. And this is one of the first classes where kids really are challenged and they have to learn some of those study skills that maybe hadn't developed in some of the classes that were easier. It's not just honors hard, it's college level hard. So being able to be organized, motivated, it's kind of like a self-starter, and that's about it. You don't have to be a great student. You don't have to have 4.0. You just have to like to learn and be willing to do some hard work and fail and stumble a little bit and pick yourself up and learn from it. And by the end of the year, you'll probably have a pretty good grade in the course and hopefully get that college credit.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Gastineau, in teaching ACP, could you share with the audience how you structure and how you teach your class differently than a regular government class?
Yeah, so for about 10 years I taught AP Government, and Mr. Kegley came to me and talked to me about ACP Government, which I knew nothing about, but then I found out it was through IU, so I was very excited to get the certification done, because I assumed that I would be getting season tickets for basketball through this course. Still waiting, but nonetheless, so it is quite a process to go through. About 75 pages. I spend a week in the summer with Dr. Barber at IU, and I've gone from teaching nothing but AP to nothing but ACP. So last fall, 182 students got IU credit. Through my course, I've got another 187 this spring. So I think what students enjoy about the course is a lot like college, and once again, thanks to Mr. Kegley, he allows me to do this. So with Dr. Barber at IU, we added up the amount of time they spend at IU, when they start, when they finish. They lecture twice a week for 75 minutes. We go 5 days a week. So what I do is I lecture on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I do straight lecture, just like they do in college. I just went down this fall in November and observed several professors teach, just so I can try to be like the class. And the students love the freedom. It gives them a day or two off, a day or two to come talk to me. We're in the CCA. I still teach more minutes than does a college professor, but the class is really a gateway to get students ready for college. I have office hours. We use a college textbook that actually Dr. Barber uses. I use the same test that she uses. So it's really taken over my life, and it's in 25 years of teaching, it's my favorite class I've ever taught.
And just to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Gastineau just shared, we're also trying to be very intentional here at Hamilton Southeastern to teach our students some of the soft skills One of the things we hear from institutions of higher learning is our students come to them well prepared for college, but in terms of academics, but they still struggle with how to manage their time, how to work with others, things like that. So as Mr. Gastineau described, for a lot of our IU courses, for example, we encourage our teachers to teach just like it's a college course. So that means they're not in class every day. Now, Mr. Gastineau is supervising them, but if they need to work on something like calculus instead of government, they can do that because they have to learn how to manage their time. Well, Mr. Gastineau, can you, thinking of a student who has been successful in your course, can you describe it? What kind of skills or what kind of attributes do they have?
Well, there's a couple up there that were extremely successful in my course, but one of the things I try to get the students to understand is to learn to work in study groups. When we're down the CCA preparing for a test, learning to try to figure out what the essays are going to be. Sometimes kids that aren't, in the same classes, they'll go to a Starbucks or Panera. I tell the students if they miss class, they need to come see me, and I'll go to the lesson or the essay, or I'm sorry, not the essay, the lecture for them. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So those are the things, those are the skills I want them to learn. Dr. Barber will tell me sometimes in a fall course of over 400 students, 3 kids will come talk to her during her office hours. So I try to, each student that I teach, they have to sit down, they have to introduce themselves, they have to get to know me, and then if they do miss class, like for Camp T, then we will come together and we'll reteach the lesson, just like I college professors do for me. So I try to teach them to be aggressive and reach out to the professors or their teacher to make sure that they're up to speed. And then additionally, if they don't do well on tests, and that happens sometimes, to sit down with me, let's go over your essay, let's go over your notes. I teach the kids how to do Cornell notes, which is something Dr. Bianco at IU wants our kids to learn, so they can learn how to sit and take notes for 50 straight minutes.
Great, thanks. Well, let's turn to student Natalie, who is an AP student in Mr. Follis' class. And so, can you share with us a little bit why you chose to take an AP class? What attracted you to taking that?
Well, one of the main things that attracted me was definitely the college credit. I mean, that's a really wonderful opportunity, and I'm really thankful to have a high school that has all of these opportunities for me to take. And also, I had an older sibling who had previously taken this class, and it helped her going into her college career, and I know she really enjoyed the class. I also enjoyed how I could save on college courses, be prepared for college, and just generally challenge myself intellectually and academically.
Great. Now, Natalie's a sophomore with us, and so she is a very mature sophomore. But what has been your experience in taking, because it wasn't too long ago that you were in this audience, and so what would you share in terms of your experience in taking an AP class for the first time?
My experience has been kind of a combination of things. It's been really challenging to me, but it is a lot of work, and you really have to be ready for the workload of this class. But I really think that it's helped me to learn time management, as other people have mentioned up here. That is so important. And I personally, through like my freshman year, tended to procrastinate on a lot of my assignments, and just, if it's due next week, I'll do it tomorrow. So this class has really taught me to be wise with my time decisions, and also to study well. The tests can be difficult in these AP courses because they're higher level, but they're not impossible if you prepare well. And the critical thinking skills that you need for these tests really can prepare you for things like the ACT or the PSAT, which I think personally helped me. And that's basically been my experience.
Well, thank you. Well, now we'll talk a little bit about our academic specialty areas. And so I'm going to start with Mr. Rosenbaum, who's our director of the Academy of Finance. Could you share with the audience a little bit more about this program and why should students be a part of the Academy of Finance?
Certainly, thank you. With our Finance Academy, and I think a lot of our specialty programs, that the students might speak about those in just a moment, but we have kind of a two-way focus, one on the curricular component as well as the social component. From the curriculum side, I think our direction is somewhat clear that it's finance, accounting and economics. But then on the social side, we try to do stuff, real world experiences that really kind of round out our kids. And so part of that would be our mentor program where our students job shadow somebody out in the community. We have the internship component. We also take trips to Chicago, to New York. So we really try to give them these experiences outside of the classroom that kind of help them see how the concepts in the classroom are played out in the real world. So I think that combination is a real powerful thing.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the types of internship opportunities that our students have through the Academy of Finance?
Yeah, it's. I've been doing this for a while. I've seen all kinds of different experiences out there. We're all over the place out there. From a large corporation, we have a great relationship with like Roche and their finance department. And we also have a great relationship with Launch Fisher. So we have these large corporations and we have these, very small companies as well that are just starting. But I think the focus is always trying to get those experiences in the office setting where they're doing real work, where they're contributing. We always talk about being an asset to the company and learning those soft skills of professionalism because those are going to transfer and benefit no matter where they go in life. And I think that's always the focus of our internship program.
Thank you. So now let's hear from a couple of our students who are a part of different specialty areas. And so Joey, I'll pass the mic here to you in just a minute. Could you share with the audience why you chose to be a part of the Project Lead the Way Biomedical Science and what attracted you to that program?
Okay, so 4 years ago, I'm a senior now. 4 years ago, I was sitting at my dinner table, and it was the night before we were supposed to turn in our scheduling sheets for freshman year to our counselors. Mine was completely blank, and my mom sat me down that night and said, "What do you want to study?" At which point I thought, oh man, I have no idea what I want to study. And that was kind of a problem because before 8th grade, my last career thought was when I was 5, I told my mom I want to be a Power Ranger. So, turns out the market for Power Rangers is kind of nil right now. And so I was reading through the course description guide that my counselor had given me, and the Project Lead the Way program popped up on there. And it was advertising to anyone who was possibly interested in the medical field, not even strongly considering, just possibly interested in it. And I thought, this was cool, I want to give it a try, and so I just signed up for it, and I haven't regretted it since.
Great. Well, what types of experiences and learning opportunities have you had by being a part of this program?
Well, the Biomed program through Project Lead the Way teaches an insanely wide range of topics. You get education in anatomy, public health, epidemiology, neuroscience, public speaking. There's just so many topics that it covers up to with. That's just in the classroom. Senior year for the Project Lead the Way program, you get an internship opportunity with St. Vincent, and I'm currently engaging that right now. I get the opportunity to shadow several departments at St. Vincent, such as the emergency room, respiratory therapy, the ER, and so I just get a lot of experience in terms of observing and seeing how the medical knowledge that we learn in the classroom can be applied to real life.
So has your experience solidified your idea that you want to go into medicine?
To a certain degree, yeah. It's just that, well, in terms of medicine, there's just a wide range of education that you need to pursue. So I'm really, at this point, taking things 1 year at a time. So my next plan is to hopefully get to college before I think about, the next 4 years, and the next 2, and the next 2, and so on.
Well, thank you. Andrew, can you share with the audience a little bit about your journey and why you chose to be a part of the Project Lead the Way engineering program?
Okay, so my experience was a little different than Joey's. I've known that I've wanted to be an engineer for a long time in my life, probably 8 years now. So going into high school, I knew that the engineering program was something I wanted to be a part of. I also was very into mathematics and science courses, which should be a must for any student looking at the engineering program. All engineering courses are heavy in the math and science fields. You don't necessarily have to be good, but you need to have a passion for them. It's also been a great experience for me throughout my 4 years. I've taken an engineering class each year I've been in high school, and I still haven't taken them all. I wish I could. They mimic a lot of colleges in the way that they approach their engineering programs, in which your first year and your second year are both intro engineering courses, so you explore a wide range of topics, and then you can specialize into different fields of study depending on what engineering field you want to pursue later on. Overall, I've had a great experience, however, and it definitely continued my passion for engineering when I started.
Fantastic. And so, Lydia, can you share us a little bit about your experience and why you chose to be a part of the Law and Government Academy?
Yes, so when I was very young, I've always known that I wanted to be a lawyer. And so when I got to high school, a friend actually told me about the Law and Government Academy. And so I was a freshman, so I was scared I wasn't able to enter it. But luckily, you can enter the program as a freshman or a sophomore. And so you take a few classes in order to qualify to get into the program. And so there's like freshman, sophomore, you take law ed or current issues. And then for your junior year, you can take constitutional law and business law. And then if you're accepted into the academy, you, which is based off like how well you did in those previous courses, then you are offered an internship at a local company your second semester of your senior year, which I'm currently involved in at CMG Worldwide.
And so what advice would you give to students out here who, like you, may be thinking that they might want to become a lawyer? So what would you say in terms of their course selection?
So if you have space, or if you know that you have a minor interest in law or in government, or even you've been knowing since you were 3 that you wanted to enter these types of fields, then I would definitely sign up for or take the courses for the program, because it is a very low commitment. So if you, let's say you take law education your freshman or sophomore year and you realize that law and government is not for you, then you just don't have to take the following courses after that. But if you do find that those prerequisite courses interest you, then definitely pursue the program.
Great.